Now, I get asked an awful lot about the tech, the software, and how I create content for this channel. So today I'm going to do just that. I'm going to give you all the details that you've been asking for about what I use to run the channel, the studio, all those kinds of things. Now, if you're not interested in this aspect, just skip this video and just get back to the tutorials. There's no problem. But if you are interested, I'm going to give you a breakdown of everything that I use to run the channel, to create the tutorials, technical, software, the lot. Okay, so first of all, let's start off with the computer side of things. So I moved over to Apple 100% probably about a year ago. Reason being, the new M1 Macs were coming out. They were getting amazing scores, especially when working with video editing with Final Cut Pro. So I thought, I do a lot of video editing, and anything that can speed up the process of that is going to be something worth investigating. So I did just that. I bought myself an M1 Mac Mini and got stuck into learning how to use it all. Fast forward a little bit, I've now got 3 Mac Minis and a MacBook Air, all of which are amazing. Now, I'm still waiting for the new Mac Minis to come out with the new M1 Mac Pro and the Max chips. So once they kind of come out, I'll probably be upgrading. But at this point in time in the studio, I'm literally running a base model M1 Mac, 8GB of RAM, 256GB hard drive. That's basically it. And it pretty much chews through everything I do in 4K without any problems whatsoever. So like I say, I am using Final Cut Pro to run this and some other software, and I'll come on to the software just a little later. Let's continue with the hardware side of things. So on top of that, I've also run it through a 27-inch 4K BenQ PD2725U monitor. Now, this was kindly supplied to me by BenQ, and I'm a big fan of BenQ monitors anyway. I've got 2 32-inch monitors in the house that I use for other video editing and those kinds of things. So I'm already familiar with this. Absolutely love the monitor. The only thing that I found with this, and this is indicative of most IPS panels, there's definitely some sort of darker areas in the corner. The uniformity of the panel is not perfect, but to get an IPS panel at this price point with no sort of backlight bleed or no edge fade in, those kinds of things, it's pretty much impossible. And unless you've got a white screen, doesn't make any difference. So for what I do, this is great. And I didn't think I would like a 27-inch monitor because I pretty much traditionally only use 32-inch 4K. But I absolutely love this in the studio. It's been a great addition. So thank you very much for BenQ to send that out to me. It's very much appreciated. Okay, so that's the basics of how I see things and how I edit things. I'm also using a Logic MX Keys Mac keyboard, which again, I really like. Nice solid keyboard, weighty, feels great, battery lasts really well, and the backlighting is also very much appreciated. I've paired the keyboard up with an Apple Magic trackpad. Again, I've got 3 of these, 1 of these on each of my Macs. I absolutely love them. And the crazy thing is, I can only really use a trackpad on a Mac, but when I switch back to a PC, I can only use a mouse on it. It's a kind of weird thing that my brain is wired that's how it all kind of works. But I love these, just especially when you do a lot of video editing, because scrubbing the timeline, zooming in, zooming out, so many cool things you can do with those gestures. So if you're not a Mac user and you've never tried any of these kind of trackpads, take my word for it. Once you kind of try one out, you get used to it. And it does take a little bit of time to get used to. They are game changers for productivity. Absolutely love that bit of kit. Now, there's one area the current range of Macs really lack in, and that is the port selection. The Mac Mini is a little bit better than most of the mobile devices, except for obviously the new Macs that have come out recently. So to combat the problem, I use a CALDIGIT TS3 docking station. So that gives me extra ports for pretty much everything I want. We've got SD card reader, microphone inputs if you wanted to use it, headphones, your standard USB 3s, all those kinds of things are inside there. Great little piece of hardware, expensive at about £300-ish for what it does. But again, once you kind of use one of these, they just become something that's on your desk. You just plug it into the computer that you're using and it just opens up a lot of ease, portability, great little bit of kit. Like I say, expensive, but they're worth paying. Next on the list is the audio interfaces that I use for pretty much all of my Macs when it comes to just recording the microphones and those kinds of things. And that's the Audient Evo 4. It's not expensive, it's portable. If you want to take it with your laptop, you could literally just chuck it in a rucksack with your laptop and a microphone and you're pretty much golden. Now, pairing up that with microphones, I currently run two microphones in the studio. One is my sort of off-camera shotgun microphone, which is the Beyerdynamic MC85BA condenser shotgun microphone. It's a nice, clean microphone, has a good, solid reputation. I've been using it now for probably about 4 years, and I think it sounds great. If I want to use something for more podcasty, so you can kind of get that microphone a little closer to you, I use it on the live stream. I use the ASTON Stealth. Now, I'm a big fan of ASTON microphones. I've got two ASTON. I've got the ASTON Stealth, and I've also got the ASTON Origin, which is like an absolute tank. They sound great. They're robust. If you're looking for a great microphone and you don't want to go down the Shure route or you want something just a little different, I would highly recommend taking a look at the ASTON microphones, especially the Stealth, because if you want that warmth, you want to get that sort of radio voice, it works perfectly. If you want to record male or female vocals, you've got switches on there to compensate the EQ on either of those to really give you a nice starting point. And there's some other options in there as well. You effectively have 4 different microphone circuits inside one microphone for around about £300, probably $350-ish. Now, it wouldn't be a live streaming setup or something I can use to do live streaming without having the obligatory Stream Deck. Again, one of those little devices that once you use it, you just realize that how did you live without it? I love the little Stream Deck. Again, I've got a couple of these. I use them on different computers. And the nice thing is, brilliant for working with streaming. But also, if you want a productivity sort of interface, drop your shortcuts in there. If you want to do video editing, audio production, again, drop shortcuts in there. And you can use this as a great tactile interface to quickly and easily open up, run macros, all those kinds of things. Really does help to speed up your productivity. Not massively expensive, but in my experience, they've been absolutely brilliant. Like I say, I love this when it comes to live streaming because it allows me to switch different camera views, pull up different sound effects, check out all different things, open up different sections. It's just great. It's really simple to work with, and it's just an absolute beast of a tool. Now, speaking of switchers, I also use the ATEM Mini by Blackmagic. This is brilliant if you want to use this to switch cameras. So you want to run up to 4 different cameras, and they could be cameras, they could be computers, mix and match, any kind of video signal you can feed into it. You can do just that. You can monitor it then with one single feed. So you could run this to a big TV, a monitor, those kinds of things. Brilliant little bit of kit. Now, speaking of recording things, obviously you need somewhere to store that, and with a base model Mac Mini, I don't really have a huge amount of space, so I rely on a lot of external SSD drives, and my favorites are probably the T5 and the T7 by Samsung. So far, touch wood, they've been incredibly reliable and easy to switch between the different computers that I use. And one of the things I really like about working with Final Cut Pro on a Mac is the ability that once I save something and all my files and the project file and so on onto that hard drive, I can literally unplug it from the one in the studio, take it to my editing station in the house, plug it in, everything is there ready to go. No messing about, no faffing, looking for files and video files and all those kinds of things. Really like the way that all works. Speeds up my process massively. So now that we've covered the hardware, the computer, the monitor, those kinds of things, what about the camera equipment? How do I record the videos? How do I do the live streams? Those kinds of things. Well, at the moment, I'm using a Sony a7S III. Now, I absolutely love this camera. The autofocus is amazing. And this is one of the reasons that I moved over from being a Panasonic fan for quite a lot of time, because the autofocus means that I can just literally turn the camera on, press that record button, and boom, I do not have to think about the camera setup at all. It was worth the cost investment just for that very reason. Now, on top of that, I'm also using a ATOMOS Ninja 5. This is a 5-inch screen that allows me to also record. So I'm basically having redundancy. So I'm recording onto the A7S III and I'm recording to the ATOMOS Ninja at the same time. The beauty of this is if one of them runs out of memory, the other one will carry on recording. I end up with 2 files. I've always got a backup there in place. Brilliant. I've also got 2 different codecs, so I could be recording in one codec on the camera, and then I can have a higher codec, a higher quality codec, like ProRes RAW, for example, or ProRes LT or LQ or whatever they're kind of called, on the ATOMOS Ninja. And if I need to have better dynamic range, then I can use the ATOMOS Ninja feed, and if I want to have just quick and easy, I can just take the memory card straight out of the camera. Now, I don't really use the teleprompter as much as I did before. I kind of go a little bit more ad hoc these days, but I've got a Glide Gear teleprompter, and I also use an iPad Air, just using that with teleprompter software that allows me, if I want to have bullet points on there, a full breakdown, or an entire script. If I'm working with creating content for one of my courses, I like to have everything outlined so I can deliver what I need to deliver directly to the camera with minimal messing around. So that's basically the camera setup. As for lighting to do with the camera, I'm simply using one light in the studio at the moment, although I am looking to revise that very, very shortly to get something a little bit more controlled. So basically what I'm using is a Godox SL60W. Very, very cost effective when it comes to lighting, around about the £100, $100, somewhere around that. And it's incredibly powerful. That literally just bounces off the walls inside here, and that gives this nice kind of soft diffuse lighting alongside the diffuser, the Octobox diffuser that I'm using, which wasn't a particularly expensive one, probably about £40, somewhere around there, and it gives, in my opinion, quite a nice looking light. So that kind of sums up the hardware that I use. Now let's take a quick look at the software. So first of all, the video. There's two kind of aspects to when I'm working with video. I've got the screen recording, and I've also got the ability to edit all of that. So for the screen recording, I'm currently using SCREENFLOW 10. Now this is something that I kind of tried out the last version because I wanted to have that simple Apple ecosystem. Took a little bit of a learning curve with it to get used to it, coming from some of the other tools I was using like Camtasia and those kinds of things. However, once you get into it, you could literally, if you want to do screen recording and you want to do to camera pieces, you could literally do it all directly inside SCREENFLOW. There's a ton of options inside this, and I think with version 10, they open up multi-camera support and multi-camera editing and those kinds of things. So you could just easily use SCREENFLOW 10. However, I like to get more control over my editing, add in those effects, do the color grading, add in the lower thirds, have all those options available. So for that, I use Final Cut Pro X. I use that alongside a range of different add-ons, things from like Leno effects, those kinds of things. So a ton of those that allows me to do my lower thirds, so do my little animations, transitions, those kinds of things you've kind of seen on the videos and on the channel. Now, when it comes to doing any of the thumbnails and the editing and things like that, or creating PDF documents for the freebies that I give away on the channel, for that, I'm using the Affinity tools. I moved away from the Adobe model probably about a year, maybe a little longer ago, because I got fed up of continually paying out for something that I really wasn't using that often. So I moved over to the Affinity suite completely. So now I use Affinity Photo, Designer, and Publisher. So pretty much anything you see created on the channel, that's all been done with that suite of tools. Absolutely love them. Crazy, insane value for money with those. And finally, when it comes to live streaming, I've just used one piece of software because it's basically my entire television studio in one. And that is ECAMM Live. Now, the ECAMM Live that I use is the top tier one because with that you get the ability to have interviews. In other words, I can have multiple different people involved in my stream. I can control various different aspects of it, and we can have that kind of conversational element. Something that I'll be taking a look at doing even more so with different guests and more guests in 2022. But if you've never seen this, take a look at ECAMM Live. If you're a Mac user, because unfortunately it is Mac only, and you want to do live streaming, it is worth its weight in gold. It just makes you look so pro. You want to get comments? Literally click a comment, pop up on screen. You can stream to Facebook, you can stream to YouTube, you can stream to Twitter. Absolutely brilliant. I absolutely love ECAMM Live. And that's basically my studio setup. Now, I do have two other office rooms that I kind of have two different computers set up in. Basically, they're mostly Mac setups, very similar in the sort of what I'm using here, but with some extra things like studio monitors and things, so I can make sure the audio sounds good before I release videos, do more editing like that kind of thing, and slightly higher spec versions of the Mac Mini. But if you want me to sort of show you more around those kinds of things, let me know in the comment section below and I can do that. Now, links to everything that are in this studio that I've talked about in this video will be in the description below. And hopefully this has answered any of those questions about how and what I use to create content and how I run the channel. As always, I would love to get your feedback on this. Drop those comments in the comment section down below. As always, my name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.